Hi, you're here with Con Garbangetidis, the CEO of the Asylum Seeker Resource Centre. And guess what I'm doing? I'm writing a letter to Malcolm Turnbull. And what am I writing to him about? Well, I'm writing to him about the fact that we need him to change the policy. We need him to change the policy right now. I'm sure everyone that's watching right now has had enough of the politics of cruelty and indifference that is causing havoc to the lives of tens of thousands of people that are seeking asylum right now in the Australian community. We need him to change the policy, because for our people that are here seeking asylum, what they need more than ever is a place to call home. But how do our people call Australia home and have a place to call home if, when they're found to be refugees, all they're getting is temporary visas? There's no home if you're temporary. There's no home if you're temporary and can't sponsor your family over. There's no family reunion, is there? There's no home if you're doing what Peter Dutton is doing right now, where up to 16,000 people nationally are about to be cut off from their income support. You're a family, not working because you haven't been able to find a job, bad luck, we'll cut you off. You're a person trying to learn the English that Peter Dutton's asked you to learn so that you can integrate and settle. You're studying full time, we're going to cut you off your income. You've never had the right to work, so you've never had a chance to get a job ready for the last 4 years, well, we're going to give you the right to work and then give you a couple of weeks and cut you off your income support. So we are facing potentially upwards of 16,000 people forced onto the streets in the coming year. How does that create home when people don't have food to put on the table for their families? How does that create home when people can't have enough time to get job ready so they can do an honest day's work and be able to provide for their family? How does someone have home if they're homeless and if they're going hungry? We need a change of policy. We all know about the men and women and children, 158 kids on Nauru, the 600 men still on Manus, the 1,800 people still locked up. And we need our government to let them go, to be able to go to places like New Zealand, where they can have a place to call home. So what I'm asking all of you to do is actually pick up your pen and paper. There's a link to this. And I'm actually asking you to write to Malcolm Turnbull. What are the odds of him actually coming over to your place for dinner? Who knows? But he's going to have to respond. And I want you to write it in your own way and personal, but at the heart of it, I'm wanting you to write to the Prime Minister and to say something like this: be nice, be respectful, be civilised. Remember, keep the high moral ground. And write and say, dear Prime Minister, I am deeply troubled by the way in which we treat people seeking asylum. I'm so grateful and lucky to be able to call this great country of ours home. And I know there are people right here in our community right now, right at our doorstep on Manus Nauru, who would give anything to be able to call this place home, who would give anything to be able to have permanent protection, to be able to sponsor their families and be with their loved ones, to know that they're not going to go hungry or homeless tonight, to know that if they're found to be a refugee, that they are permanently here. So I'm asking you, Prime Minister, to come over to my place for a feed, for a meal, and I want to talk to you about how we can change the policy together. I want to talk to you about how I want your leadership to be one that is grounded in compassion and kindness and decency and love and context and perspective and vision. That I'm tired and exhausted of this race to the bottom. That it impoverishes and diminishes us all when we appeal to what separates us and when we get caught up in the politics of division and intolerance and hate and fear. For the only thing we have to fear is our indifference. The only thing that is a threat is when we abandon our moral compass and our values. So PM, come over to my place for a barbie or for a curry, or for me, I'll make you some beautiful halloumi. We'll chase it down with some red wine, and let's talk about how you can change the policy. What we want is you to pick up the pen and paper and to write to our PM. And we want to get tens of thousands of responses back, because what we want to put a focus and spotlight on this year is about the importance of home. And we want to put a spotlight into a group that most people don't even know about, which is 90% of people seeking asylum are actually here in our Australian community. They're in Brunswick, they're in Bathurst, they're in Adelaide, they're in Footscray, they're in Bendigo and Ballarat, they're in Redfern, they're across this great country of ours, they're in Perth. They're in Hobart, where I was yesterday with the great local people there. And so many of them right now are struggling just to survive. And we want you to join us in demanding a compassionate and welcoming place to call home. And it's really simple. It means things like this: that while I'm seeking refuge in your country, trying to prove that I'm a refugee, I'd like to be able to survive. I'd like to know that I could actually have a roof over my head. Nothing fancy, just that I'm not going to be forced onto the street because I've got no money to my name. I want to know that if I'm trying to better myself by going to TAFE and getting a job in an area that we've got shortages in, that you're not going to cut me off my measly $225 a week, which is what Dutton's doing right now. I want to know you're not going to force me, if I've got a family, out into destitution by cutting me off, even if I've had no chance to actually find a job or get job ready because you haven't let me work for years. I want to know that after 5, 6, 7 years, which is how long people have waited to prove that they're a refugee, that if you accept me as one, that I'm permanent. I'm not on some 3 or 5 year visa, which means I can't sponsor my family over and I can't be reunited. I want to know that when you talk about me as a human being, as part of this great multicultural country, PM, that you keep banging on about. Well, where am I in that story? Where am I in that narrative? I want to know that I'm listening to a Prime Minister that's talking about how do we take more refugees? How do we provide safe passage to people? Because I don't want anyone getting on a boat. No one watching does. But when we make it about boats rather than about people, when we make it about punishment rather than about protection, when we make it about turning people back rather than about how do we save more lives, we're actually having the wrong conversation as a country. And I think we can do better. And I think we can save more refugee lives. And I think we can provide safe passage. Because the borders and barriers that are being built now under this leadership at the moment are ones that are asking us to put barriers and borders around our hearts and our minds and our imagination. And we know it is natural for all of us as people to want freedom and safety and protection. And whatever you think about how people have made it to this great country of ours, they're here now. They're in our community. They're our newest Australians. We have a moral duty and obligation to protect them and to allow them to contribute and integrate and settle and be safe and have a fair shake when they go to try to prove that they are a refugee in a fair process. And this legal process is completely broken and completely unfair. And so, PM, we need you to look at that as well because you're setting people up to fail. We should have a fair, transparent and efficient legal process. We have none of those things anymore. So I want you to pick up your pen, grab a piece of paper, and I want you to write to the Prime Minister and say, I'm writing to invite you to come over to talk about how we can change the policy and about how we can create refugee policy that actually provides people with a safe place to call home, with dignity, transparency, fairness, accountability, and upholding our basic commitment to human rights. That's the country we can be, should be, and need to be once more. So please join me. Click on that link. You'll have tips. You'll have the address that you can write to the PM. Yeah, maybe this action's a symbolic one, but it's a symbolic one to kick off an important conversation, which is about what does home mean to us and why are we denying refugees that home, and putting some pressure on our Prime Minister and our government to actually start leading, to actually start upholding the very principles and values that we claim to have as a country, and to actually start walking that talk. So thank you for your support. Pick up that pen and get writing. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks. Con, why do you think it's important to write a handwritten letter?
I'll tell you why. In a day where we text and we swipe and we ping and we like and we retweet, nothing beats this. You know why? A handwritten letter's worth 100 digital signatures on a petition, or 200 retweets, because the person who picks up the pen and writes, that's someone who actually is showing that they care enough and are engaged enough that they're actually taking 5 minutes out of their busy day, I know, but 5 minutes is what it will take you to actually take the time to write. And the more personalised it is, the more it sends a message to our political leadership that this is an issue that is resonating now, this is an issue that will resonate in the next federal election, and that the more people can be shown to take that personal time and effort, the more that will cut through, because it's actually putting a face to your story and putting a face to your call for action too. And that's why I think it's important.
Thanks, Con. And tomorrow we're going to organise a lunchtime letter writing session at ASRC.
Fantastic.
So we're asking people to do it at their workplaces as well.
And that's an easy thing. Grab a piece of paper, 5 minutes. There may be some of those postage paid envelopes hanging around your office. Boop, chuck it in one of those. Off to the Prime Minister it goes. It takes 5 minutes. It's a fun thing you could do exactly over lunch. You could do at uni, you could do it at your high school, you could do it at your Sunday church service at your synagogue's, temple or mosque this weekend. You could do it at your kids' play group with your other parents. You could do it anywhere, at your sporting club. Just do it. And there's something quite beautiful about the old lost art of just writing a letter and putting down your passion for fairness and putting down a couple of simple words about you want this to be a place where those that are here in our community can call Australia home too. Because without home and without family, we have nothing.
Can I see what your handwriting looks like? No one ever knows about handwriting.
It's terrible. It's terrible.
Oh,
it's awful.
beautiful.
And this letter's just begun. I haven't finished it yet. So if you're going, hey, that's a short letter, I'm starting to write, but my handwriting is terrible.
It's not.
But it's mine, and it's authentic, and it's
That's
real.
right.
And that's all I'm asking you to do. It doesn't matter if you're fancy. And if you're fancy, I envy you and I hate you. But just do it. Pick up any pen and just write from the heart. And the simple message is just so I can talk about how we can change the policy and we can create a country where refugees can call this a place to call home. And that those people that are here right now, that we could give that to them, because what connects us is our shared compassion and humanity and decency and love.
Great. I can't wait to see the finished letter.
Thank you.
And I think you have beautiful handwriting.
You don't need to talk to me and lie to me like that. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you,
Get writing, everyone. Pick up that pen.
Thanks.
Cheers, everyone. Thanks,
You're amazing.
everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.